Alright, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It's New Year's. Woo! Anyway, couple of things we're gonna do today. First, I just figured I'd show off some of the growth spikes and other fun things going on with some of the house orchids. Starting with my Cymbidium, I think this is Sweetheart Sensation. It has this really long, pointy, probably flower spike developing here, and then something else developing down here. I don't know if those are going to both become flower spikes. Hopefully they will. I have some Cymbidium pollen stored, and looks like we have another bagworm moth. This is just a common bagworm. It's a European bagworm moth species that was introduced here. Bagworm moths get their name because the caterpillars build this case around themselves with silken bits of leaves. This insect doesn't actually feed on Cymbidium, it actually feeds on leaf, grass material. And what probably just happened was this individual used the Cymbidium after finishing feeding, because this has been outside for the summer near a lawn where the bagworm would be found, to secure itself in. They basically carry around their cocoon until they're ready to pubate. My Dendrobium kingianum has this very nice spike developing on it, so we should have some flowers from that shortly. My Phaeus microburst looks like it's getting a new growth down there. I don't know if that's going to become a flower, but let's hope it does. And my Dendrobium nobile have opened. This is a very nice Dendrobium nobile flower. And you can see there are numerous other flower buds on this plant. So what we're going to do is we're going to pollinate this flower. Now, orchid pollen and orchid flowers are quite odd. You have these very strange shaped petals, and you have this column here. The pollen cap you can see quite readily right there. This is the pollen cap right there. And pollinators would stick their head or their tongue or whatever into here, and they would pick the pollen away from the pollen cap, and the pollen is contained in a mass called a pollinia, which is basically a globular lump of pollen that the plant produces. And behind where the pollen cap is on most orchid flowers is the receptive surface with a stigma, where you can't really see it from this view, and I don't want to bend the flower too much, but that's where you would get the pollen landing on. So I sourced some Dendrobium phalaenopsis pollen. Ignore the wandering Jew in the cup in the bin right there. And you basically can take orchid pollen. You can see the pollen caps with the pollinia still in them, and then you can see some loose pollinia. You take the pollen caps and you put them in a container, and I usually let this sit open in my refrigerator for a few days so that it dries. Now, before you pollinate, you have to rehydrate the pollen. So I have taken some distilled water, and you can see that the pollinia have taken up a good portion of that water. You can see the size difference between the hydrated and the dehydrated pollinia. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take our tweezers here, and we're going to put the pollinia on the tweezers. Yep. And what we want to do is we want to get that surface in the orchid flower. We're not quite there yet. See how I stick it behind where the pollen cap is? I really want to get that on the appropriate surface. So I'm hoping that that worked. I dislodged the pollen cap a little bit, which I didn't really intend to do. But, you know, in nature there would be naturally other critters coming along, bumping into the flowers. So the receptive surface is up in that little pocket there. So I'm really hoping that I got the pollen where it needs to go. There are easier orchid flowers to pollinate and to demonstrate the pollination process, but that's what I'm doing with that plant. And that's about all for now. The tissue culture seems to be going fairly well. I seem to be getting about 11% contamination, and I just fixed my glove box, and I'm going back to check on that in a little while. I'm on winter break, so I've come back to Rhode Island to take care of a couple of things, return a puppy, water the plants through, and everything. So I'm gonna go back and take care of the glove box again later. The Cattleya intergenerics that I planted at the beginning of November are finally germinated and becoming fairly good-sized protocorms really quickly, and some of the Phalaenopsis protocorms that I replanted are finally showing signs of further development. So I am going to put the orchids away. I watered the orchid tree, and I took care of some other stuff. So yeah, that's my update.